Just tell us a little bit
Sure,
about
you know, it was
that.
just a point that I needed to make tonight. We talk about Virginia being all-inclusive, and, you know, certainly the discrimination against the LGBT community needs to stop. And, you know, it's well known amongst leaders of Virginia that that Northrop Grumman was looking to come here. They were offended by some of the statements that were being made.
Which statement was that?
Well, I can't give you any direct statement tonight, but the governor had to go intervene. He sat down and talked with them. At the end of the day, they decided to come here. But the point that I was trying to make tonight is that as leaders, as Virginia being all-inclusive, trying to attract businesses to stay in Virginia, that the social issues are important to businesses looking at Virginia. So that was the point that I was trying to make.
Let's move forward out of this
understand
light.
how-
Come on, come this way.
Could you
It's
move
easy
this
to
way a little bit?
understand how your point about contraception, most oral contraception being outlawed under personhood.
Sure.
I think I understand what you're saying about in vitro, but make sure we understand.
Well, sure, part of the process, Bob, and I don't want to get into the weeds too much tonight, but, you know, numerous embryos are formed and not all are used. And so I can just tell you that Dr. Jones, who was one of the founders of Eastern Virginia Medical School, of the in vitro program, is very, very concerned about pieces of legislation such as the personhood bill. So it really doesn't have any place in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Thank you. Next question.
Has your opponent supported the personhood bill?
Yes, he's on the record for supporting personhood. And, you know, as was said somewhat tonight, he talks about, you know, the not giving women choice with any exception. And, you know, just as a physician, and we didn't get into a lot of detail tonight, but, you know, things like ectopic pregnancies, I mean, that's when a fetus is grown in a fallopian tube. That is a non-viable condition. It's life-threatening to the mother, and that's why at the end of the day it is so important for that decision whether to terminate a pregnancy be made between a woman and a provider, not a group of legislators that don't understand medicine.
I believe he supports life of the mother exception, doesn't he?
You'd have to ask him.
In regards to his closing statements, Mr. Jackson mentioned that some of his statements were said in church and that he isn't running for Virginia pastor, he's running for lieutenant governor, that he can separate the two, that he will still govern
Sure.
with all the people.
You know, I have trouble understanding that logic. I mean, again, I'm a man of faith. I go to the Baptist church, and I actually go to a lot of churches across the Commonwealth. I teach ethics. I interact with students. I mean, what I say is what I believe, and, you know, whether it happens in church or in school or on the moon. I mean, it shouldn't matter where you are. If it comes out of your mouth, you should believe in it. And again, those types of things that he's been saying are offensive. They're divisive. They have no place in Virginia, in my opinion.
On higher education, you said that Virginia students should stay in state. Where is the money going to come from to allow for that to happen? Well,
that's a great question, and it's all about priorities. But, you know, one of the things that's happening right now, JLARC is looking at some of the tax exemptions that maybe perhaps we don't need in Virginia, and some of that money that would be freed up could certainly be used for K through 12 and higher education. And, you know, the other thing is as we move forward, if we invest in education, it's going to pay for itself in the long run. That money will come back into our revenue stream, and so you know, it'll pay for itself. It's all about, you know, an investment, and that should be our priority.
You said, okay. Senator, you said early on during the debate that sequestration was one of the worst things to happen, to be affecting the economy. Can you show us any concrete examples of this?
Yeah, and you know, if all you have to do is look at the presence of our military here in Virginia, the government contracting that we depend on, that working families depend on. And, you know, we're already in Hampton Roads. We have companies that have had to cut back. We have some of the boat yards that aren't able to do the business that they used to do. So if you go around and talk to some of these businesses, they will tell you that, you know, sequestration is having a big impact on Virginia right now. And again, the point I made tonight, we need to sit down as leaders, realize that it's an issue, and do something about it and move forward.
Sure, just one other question about public education. You said you wouldn't want any money taken out of the system.
Right.
Now you said, now just going back to that, can you show us any concrete examples where money taken out of the public education system would equal better education?
I'm not sure if I understand your question. Where
Can you just show us any examples where less money in the education system means better education?
Well, you know what, the point that I tried to make tonight, we have cut $6 billion out of an $80 billion budget over the last 6 years. You know, that's the general fund. The general fund helps fund public education, K through 12. It funds Medicaid, and it funds our first responders. So anything that we do to take money away from those areas is going to hurt services. It's going to hurt jobs, and you know we don't have the teachers that we need in our public school system. Our classrooms are too large. So again, the point that I tried to make tonight, public education needs to be a priority. And one last thing on a follow-up to your question, you know, the Medicaid expansion is literally billions of dollars that if we don't take advantage of it here in Virginia, it's going to other states, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, Florida. Some of that money could be freed up to go into public education as well. So there are a lot of different sources that we can fund education with. The bottom line, though, it has to be a priority in Virginia.
You mentioned gun violence tonight and specifically called out assault-style weapons. Do you support any kind of ban?
Well, what I support, and I think I made myself clear tonight, is we need to sit down at the table and have a discussion on how we can deal with the gun violence that we have right now in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And two steps that I would take right now are universal background checks and increase access to mental health. I don't think anybody is going to come in realistically and do things like ban assault weapons or high volume clips, that type of thing, but it's certainly a discussion that we can have.
So something you would consider?
Yes, sir, I would consider.
It's the last question, folks.
Could you talk about your decision to go after his financial background and kind of what message that sends to other Virginians who might have had financial troubles like bankruptcy and things in the past?
Sure. I think it's something that, as I mentioned in the debate tonight, one of the two of us is going to be overseeing an $80 billion budget. And so I was trying to contrast my record. I'm a successful businessman. I have, run the financial situation in my house successfully. And, if someone is going to step up and say that they want to represent the Commonwealth of Virginia as the lieutenant governor and one heartbeat away from being the governor, I would ask that they have a secure financial record. And so I needed to talk about that tonight and make sure Virginians understand the difference between his financial record and my financial record.
Are you saying that people who have been through bankruptcy or had financial troubles in the past can't hold public office or shouldn't be?
No, that's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is, in order to run the Commonwealth of Virginia, someone needs to know how to successfully run a business, and they need to know how to manage money. And I was just basically contrasting his financial record with mine.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes.
Yep, thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Senator.